Hello, we're now live. Hi, Cece.
Hi everyone! I'm Cece. I'm the Community Outreach Team Leader for Down to Earth and excited to be cooking with you today on our Cook With Us episode. So for those of you who have not looked ahead, we are making plant-based Shoyu chicken today, and the recipe is at d2e.co/shoyu chicken. So if you want to follow along, jump online now and you can read the recipe along with us. So I know a lot of you were guessing what we're making today.
Yep.
Well, you were guessing what the shoyu chicken is going to be made out of today. We gave you one hint. It's not gluten. It's actually jackfruit.
Woo!
Isn't that amazing?
Nobody
So
guessed that.
I'm gonna ask Cynthia to grab in my special ingredient out of that green bag over there. This is actually a different jackfruit. I also made some street tacos probably a few weeks ago. And here we have, this is the jackfruit right here. So the street tacos that I made last time were made from this. It was the same ingredient, jackfruit, but they actually had canned jackfruit. So canned jackfruit is a different consistency to this jackfruit, which is totally fine. We were out of canned jackfruit downstairs in our Honolulu store. That's okay. You can use whatever jackfruit you have. We also have another one which is like in pieces. So this is the unseasoned shredded, but there's another one that comes in smaller pieces. You can also use that one, but if I'm choosing between this one and that one, I would go with the shredded.
Right.
If I'm choosing between this one and the canned, I would go with the canned. So this one we're going to use today.
We also have the one in the chill section. Is that a good option, or you still prefer the box?
So you're welcome to use the one in the chilled section. The chilled section is actually pre-seasoned. So I believe it's a Tex-Mex seasoning. So it just depends whether you're willing to have a Tex-Mex shoyu chicken kind of flavor.
Sorry to cut you off. There's actually a few different flavors.
Oh, okay,
There's
there you go.
Tex-Mex, there's like a more, I think there's like a teriyaki.
There you go. Maybe the teriyaki one would work better with the shoyu chicken.
But like you said, they are mainly flavored already.
Yes, they're all pre-seasoned. So if you want to start off with a neutral flavor, then this is the one, because this is no seasoning. The only ingredient is organic young jackfruit. So this is the one for starting from scratch, no flavors, making your own shoyu flavor.
Yeah.
Okay. Next thing we're going to, well, actually, first thing we're going to, we haven't done anything yet. We're going to come over to our stove top, and we are actually going to start off by kind of, I guess you could, seasoning, you could call it, seasoning the jackfruit. It's not really going to be like a heavy seasoning. You're not needing to marinate it or anything, but this is what it looks like when it comes out of the packet. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water to begin with to make a little broth. And I'm going to just turn my stovetop onto high, because I want the water to boil. And the first thing I'm going to add is this amazing Beyond Broth powdered veggie broth. This is actually the ginger basil flavor. So it's called Yummy Tummy, which is really cute. And we love these Beyond Broths. And the amazing thing is Beyond Broth is actually exclusive to Down to Earth here in Hawaii, all the way through till October. So if you want to try this, you need to get into one of your Down to Earth stores, or you can also order online. Okay, so I'm just giving it a little bit of a whisk. Now you can add as little or as much of the broth powder as you like, depending on how strong you want the flavor. They recommend on the packet to use about 12 ounces of water, but if you're using less than that, you can adjust. But for a stronger flavor, you can just put the whole thing in, and it'll be very, very strong.
Nice.
So I'm going to pop this nutritional yeast in there. We use nutritional yeast so much.
Yep.
It's affectionately known as Nooch by those of us who do use it a lot. And then I'm going to pop some onion powder and smoked paprika in there. Now with this jackfruit, you'll notice that it's a very dark coloring. If you watched our street taco demo, then you would have seen that the coloring of the canned jackfruit is a lot lighter. So the smoked paprika not only adds a little bit of smoky flavor, it also adds some color to the canned jackfruit. This one is already very, very dark. Okay, and then I'm going to pop my jackfruit in there. Now, I'm going to demo with 1 packet of jackfruit. You will notice on the recipe that it calls for 3 cans, or you can use 3 packets, because the cans jackfruit yields about the same as one of these packets of jackfruit. So if you're using the packet of jackfruit, you don't need to do the pre-boiling step. You can just pop the jackfruit in there. I'm going to give it a little bit of a mix.
Wow, it looks so different from the canned
Very,
jackfruit.
very different. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. And this is why I do recommend you use the other jackfruit, just because it is a very, very different consistency. So this jackfruit is more of a kind of like, I don't know what you'd call that, more of a packed together consistency.
Yeah, not sure what to call it.
Yeah, it's different. The other one pulls apart a little bit more like chicken, or
Right.
you know, we used that one to simulate pork, actually, like
Yeah.
a pulled pork kind of effect.
Yeah.
So you're gonna give this a good mix. Now, for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to do 1 packet, just because I'm not gonna demo the full recipe, but you will add 2 extra packets if you're using the full recipe. And when you do that, what you want to look for is you actually want to basically see some of the liquid disappear. This will be easier to see with the canned jackfruit. With this one, it kind of soaks up the moisture. So you just want to keep it cooking on medium heat for a while, just to let the liquid evaporate a little bit. We're not going to have it at perfect consistency today, because otherwise you'll just be watching the liquid evaporate, which is not so fun. But while we do that, we're going to move on over here, and I'm going to make a little bit of a binder. Now, this binder I actually use for multiple different recipes. I even use it in baking, but basically it's a little bit of silken tofu. This is the silken tofu that I used. It's a soft one, but you can actually use a firm silken tofu, or I'm trying to turn it without spilling all the tofu out. There we go. And you can also use, you know, a firm one, any kind of silken tofu, as long as it's the silken, because you want that consistency to really be a binding effect.
Right.
The other thing I'm going to add is the arrowroot powder that I've used multiple times before. This is a great grain-free substitute for cornstarch, and you basically can use it 1-to-1 wherever it calls for cornstarch. And then I'm going to mix it together. It's okay if you have the same whisk. It's all going into the same recipe. You know, some people get bothered by the fact that it's a dirty whisk. It's okay. We can handle that. And you'll notice that it becomes very, very thick and very, very kind of crumbly. Now, it'll start to, sending starch everywhere. Sorry, Cynthia. It'll start to kind of form this like little thick sort of
Paste?
almost like a paste or a
Yeah.
dough. So at this point, I'm just going to add a tiny splash of water. You can use a teaspoon for this if you want to go just a little bit at a time. And I'm just going to keep mixing until I check the consistency. This is actually getting to be a good consistency. So you see that how it's starting to get a little bit more runny. You want it to basically be able to fall through that whisk. So we need a tiny bit more. And then whisk it along again. I think that looks like it's just about ready.
Nice.
It's a slightly runny paste. Yeah, you can see that that's falling through. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more to this part and mix it in.
Nice.
Great. And that you can see that falling all the way through now. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here and we're going to pretend that the liquid has evaporated from our jackfruit mixture. And what I'm going to do is just bring it over off the heat, and I'm going to throw this paste into our jackfruit mixture.
Can I ask a quick
yes,
question?
go for it.
Why are you using this paste instead of, 'cause typically you like to use a flax egg,
Yes.
some other options. Is there a reason
Great
why you're using
question.
the tofu instead?
Yes. Okay, so I have used, that's an excellent question. I have used, and you probably have noticed, I use flax eggs a lot as a binder, but I find that in this recipe, the flax can be a little bit gritty. And because, you know, this is you're trying to imitate, you're trying to imitate chicken, and chicken isn't usually gritty. So we just want to, we want to avoid that grittiness.
And I think most people just don't want to eat grittiness, no matter what.
Right. So this is just acting as a binder. Just mix it all together. It will be a slightly lighter color if you add more jackfruit, but it ends up like that. And then what I'm now going to do is I am going to come over here and I'm going to, let me move some things around so you can see what I'm doing over here. I'm going to now add a little bit of this to a rice paper sheet. So this is going to form the skin of the chicken. I know, this is amazing. We're turning rice paper into chicken skin here. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut this in half. You can use a whole sheet if you want, and I'm going to show you the difference in a little bit between one that has a whole sheet and one that uses half a sheet. The half a sheet I find is, might break a little bit, that's okay. The half sheet is a little bit better, I find, in just kind of being just the right size. If you use a whole sheet, you can do that. Your chicken piece might be a little bit larger, but it can get very floppy the bigger it gets. So what I do now, I have some water over here in this pan. I'm just gonna pop this rice paper sheet in here, give it a little, this is probably the most boring part of the demo, softening rice paper. So you want to do it for at least 30 seconds. Often when you wrap rice paper rolls for, when you're making like Vietnamese rice paper rolls, if you're like me, you actually just dip it in very quickly and then add everything, and then by the time you've added everything, it's soft enough. In this case, we're only adding one thing, so I find that I do need to actually soften it sufficiently in the water, because otherwise, when I'm wrapping the jackfruit mixture, it won't stick properly because it'll still be a little bit hard. So you want to soften for at least 30 seconds. I think I just rambled for 30 seconds. Should be enough. So now I'm going to pull this over and I'm going to add some of my jackfruit mixture. Now, if you want the extra shoyu flavor, you can add shoyu to the mixture before you put it on here. If you're happy with just the shoyu being in the sauce, that's fine as well. So now I just wrap this, and this part is tricky because you'll find that these two ends here don't always meet very well, but if you pull the sides over, stretch them and pull them over, you should be able to cover. And you do want to make sure that it is covered. The reason being, if it's not covered, it can come out in your, when you're actually cooking it. So most of that is covered. That wasn't a very perfect one. Of course, whenever you do the demo, it's never the perfect one. But that's okay. It happens in the kitchen. So now I'm going to bring you over. Actually, before I bring you over, let's make the sauce. Just so just imagine that we have made multiple ones of these. We've made, however many you can with your amount of ingredients. And now I'm going to make the sauce. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape this ginger. A lot of people don't realize that you can peel ginger with a spoon. I don't know if you've ever seen this done. This is by far the best way, I think, to peel ginger, because when you try to use a knife, look at all those nooks and crannies. How do you get to those nooks and crannies with a knife? Well, with a spoon, it's a lot easier to do, and it just comes straight off. You can see how easy that is. So I really prefer to peel the ginger, and you do want to have, a substantial amount of ginger. It depends whether you're a very gingery shoyu chicken person or a not so gingery, but I prefer to have quite a bit. Ooh, there we go.
I'm just gonna shamelessly plug these rice papers.
Yes!
You can buy this in our stores, and it's comes with a lot, and you can also use them to make Cece's bacon.
Yes,
Bacon.
absolutely.
Those are really, really good.
Yes, very versatile, these rice paper rolls. You can make all kinds of substitutes with them.
Sometimes when I've bought this in the past, I've like, God, there's so many in here. But
I know.
now you can make this shoyu chicken and some vegan bacon.
Right. And actually in this recipe, you don't necessarily, if you want, you can use other meat substitutes instead of the jackfruit. I mean, I find that the jackfruit is awesome, especially the canned one, just because it pulls apart really well as if it's like almost like real chicken. It's kind of got that very fleshy texture about it. So that's why I like it. But I actually, when I was testing this recipe, because I grew up in Australia and I've never actually had real shoyu chicken before. I mean, I'm obviously making a plant-based version, but never eaten the real one. And so I didn't really know, you know, I was basically just testing the recipe. Thankfully, my boyfriend is Hawaiian, so he was testing it for me to make sure it can be Hawaiian approved. And he was telling me that shoyu chicken actually falls apart. So he was saying that, you know, the jackfruit is great, but I also tried one with soy curls, and that one also has a very fleshy consistency, even though it's, you know, made from soy curls, and it does fall apart a lot more than the jackfruit. So you can try it with soy curls as well. Or if you have another favorite meat substitute, like, you know, TVP, something like that, you can try that as well. I'm gonna put the ginger in there, and then I'm going to only use, in this section, I'm only gonna use the white parts. Green onions, I always like to cut off about 1 inch and leave the roots, and I literally regrow all of my green onions. Just because they're so easy to grow, you don't need a huge plot of soil. You can even if you just have a lanai, you can put these on the lanai in a little pot, perfect. And so I'm gonna use the white part of the green onion for my sauce, and I'm going to reserve the green part for garnish because everybody loves a good garnish. Okay, popping these, you can chop these finer if you like. I'm just gonna pop these in there. I've got some chunky ginger and some chunky green onion today. And then I'm going to put my liquid ingredients. So I've got Bragg's liquid aminos. This is a great lower sodium alternative to regular shoyu. So maybe I should call this liquid aminos chicken instead of shoyu chicken. But it's just a great alternative. It has 16 essential amino acids. It's awesome. And it's just a couple of ingredients. I believe just, yep, vegetable protein from soybeans and water. Very, very easy. I'm going to pop the Bragg's in there. You can also use, if you're looking for a soy-free alternative, we also have coconut aminos. If you've never tried coconut aminos, that's a great alternative. And then I'm going to put some pineapple juice in there. Now you're welcome to use, you know, sugar. I know traditionally the recipe calls for sugar, or also you can use coconut sugar, date sugar. Again, my boyfriend was telling me that the soup or the sauce from shoyu chicken should be translucent. I tried it with some date sugar and it kind of has that grit to it. So I thought maybe I'll try pineapple juice to give that translucent kind of consistency. So I put the pineapple juice in there. Last thing I'm going to add is some water just to give us a little more sauce to work with. Now, going to give this a little bit of a mix, and then I'm going to bring it to the boil over here. We're going to travel over again to our stovetop. I'll put this on high and bring this sauce to the boil. Now, while I do that, let me show you the little packages that I prepared earlier. So I know, so these are the ones that were done with half a rice paper sheet, but I wanted to show you what it looks like when you use a whole sheet.
There's a lot of extra.
Yes. There's
chicken.
Yes, chicken skin, that's right. So a lot of excess, so it's totally up to you. That will add chewiness to the chicken, plant-based chicken, but it's, I personally prefer it when it kind of just fits just right, but if you really like that chewy consistency and that texture, then feel free to add a little bit extra rice paper. The other thing I wanted to add, I know our Pearl Ridge store actually also sells brown rice paper sheets, and they, in terms of color-wise, do look a little bit better. Exact same taste-wise. So if you're wanting to shock your family and want something that looks a little bit more brown, you could try using the brown rice paper sheets, but the white will definitely have that chewy consistency. So you can see our sauce over here is bubbling. Once you see that bubbling, you can pop your little shoyu chicken pieces in there. And what you will do is once it's bubbling, you can reduce the heat to medium or even lower. Medium is usually good. And then you just let that simmer for about 10 minutes or so. While that's happening, I'm going to prepare a little bit of garnish. So I'm going to grab some green onions. And the reason I'm going to prepare a little bit of garnish is because I'm not going to make you watch the shoyu chicken cook and simmer for 10 minutes. Oh, there's my little piece from, oh, see, this is what happens. Oh, this is a great example of what not to do. This is what happens if you don't wrap it all the way around. This is, yes, that's what it'll look like in your pan.
Yeah.
So,
and if that happens, then it just gets all into your sauce.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Nice and sealed.
Sealed to perfection. Okay, now this is the exciting part. I am going to bring over, and maybe you can have a look at this delicious pineapple juice while I bring over the finished product.
Actually, I'm going to do a shameless plug for
my yes,
new favorite, lunch Beyond Broth.
Yes.
So usually at lunch I'm not very hungry, so Cece introduced this Beyond Broth to me, and this one in particular is really good. It's very filling. It doesn't, you know, if you work in an office, I mean, we're not working in offices that much these days, but it's not too smelly.
Right. Exactly.
But it's really nice that it's in a packet, so you just like bring some hot water and then you put this in, and it's just like so good. And I mean, Yummy Tummy is very perfect name for this because it's perfect.
Yes.
Nice and gingery.
Absolutely. And it's really packed full of flavor.
Yes,
really, really delicious.
And has all the good things. I mean, all the stuff that it's allergy friendly.
Yes,
Soy,
exactly.
gluten free, no added sugar, and you can see the ingredients there. It's just whole foods. You know?
Right. Exactly.
So good.
And it's amazing. This was actually developed by a mom of 6 actually, and she just wanted something that was really clean, that was great for her family, and she came up with Beyond Broth.
Yeah.
So if you're a mom, and even if you're not a mom, if you want something clean for yourself, your ohana, definitely try the Beyond Broth.
I'll be making the shoyu chicken, which you're going to reveal to us in just a sec, like on the weekend, but this is what I eat during the week.
Yes.
When you just don't have time for this.
Awesome. Okay, here's the big reveal. Dun, dun, dun. Terrible drum roll. Okay, there we go. There is shoyu chicken.
Actually, when you showed me this recipe, I really had no clue what you were going to make it out of. I was like, I have no idea what this is.
Yeah, I sent Cynthia a photo of it before I sent her the recipe of what was actually in it. So, I mean, it is hard to guess if you haven't made it before, if you've never tried to make a shoyu chicken. It's kind of hard, and I actually really had to think about what I was going to use for this.
The color on here is so crazy.
Yeah.
It looks so much like shoyu chicken.
I know, there we go. So super excited.
Can we cut one open so you can see what it looks like on the inside?
Let me cut this one open here.
Okay.
All right.
Wow. And I like how big they are because that really does mimic that.
So that's the jackfruit inside. And you can see that it's still kind of like packed together. But again, if you want to try using the canned jackfruit, it will pull apart. But even like this skin, you know what, let me just taste it. I mean, I've eaten it before, but just so I can relive the experience.
Describe it to us. We'll live vicariously through you. I
don't know if you saw the pull. Let me see if I can do it again.
Yeah, try again. I don't want to get too close. I don't know how people feel.
The pull on that rice paper roll, that rice paper sheet, is really, I haven't eaten chicken for over 12 years.
Yeah.
But that stretch and that chewiness, it's crazy how similar it is.
Right.
And it's so good for you.
Nice.
This is super low fat. Jackfruit is high in vitamin C. It's such a great ingredient that I hope everybody uses more. In fact, I think people are using it because currently no canned jackfruit downstairs. But we will be getting it back in soon. And in the meantime, of course, you can use the boxed one, which is the unseasoned shredded, also comes in unseasoned pieces. So thank you so much. Are there any questions before we finish? If not, Just a reminder that the recipe is here at d2e.co/shoyu-chicken. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and make sure you tune in again on Facebook next Tuesday at 12 p.m. for our Facebook Live cooking demo, and of course again next Friday at 12 p.m. on Instagram Live. Thank you so much. We're so happy that you come to cook with us. Aloha!